I knew the moment I stepped through the golden revolving doors of Stellato that I had reached the end of my rope. My ribs hurt with every breath. My cheek throbbed in a deep, ugly pulse. My hands shook so badly that the serving tray I carried rattled against my fingers. I should have been on the floor taking orders like every other night, pretending everything was fine. But tonight I walked in for one reason only. I needed the most dangerous man in Seattle to save my life. The dim lights of the restaurant blurred as I searched for him. My vision kept swimming from fear and pain, but I finally spotted him at his private table near the back. Christian Hayes. The Mafia boss everyone whispered about, but no one dared to look at for too long. He sat alone, shoulders straight, reading through documents as if the world couldn't touch him. A glass of amber liquor sat beside him, untouched. My steps wobbled as I approached his table. I felt like a child walking toward a locked gate that held back a storm. But I had no choice. I had nowhere else to go. "Please," I whispered, the word barely leaving my throat. "My husband will kill me this time. I have nowhere else to go." Christian looked up slowly, and for a long moment he just stared at me. His blue eyes were sharp and cold at first, scanning my bruised cheek, the way I kept my weight on my right side so the pain in my ribs didn't make me collapse. He had watched me for weeks as I quietly served tables and avoided everyone. Maybe he had already guessed something was wrong. He closed his leather folder with a calm, deliberate motion. Then he nodded toward the empty chair across from him. "Sit." His voice was gentle, but it felt like a command that reached into my bones. I sat on the edge of the chair, ready to run if I had to. "I don't have money," I blurted out. My voice cracked, and a tear slid down my bruised cheek. "But I'll clean your homes. I'll cook. I'll do anything if you can just hide me for a few days." Christian didn't look surprised. He didn't look moved either. He only tilted his head slightly, and the bodyguard behind him moved toward the kitchen exit. "Your husband," Christian said quietly. "He has friends in the police department." I stared at him, stunned, because he was right. My husband had protection everywhere. Every time I tried to run, the police brought me right back to him. "How did you know?" I whispered. "Because you came to me instead of them." He pulled out his phone and typed something quickly. "My car will be at the back in 3 minutes," he said. "Decide now." He didn't look at me as he spoke. Maybe he didn't need to. He already knew I had no other choice. My hands shook as I stood. That decision changed everything. It was the moment I accepted that if I stayed, I would die. And if I left with him, my life would never be the same again. Christian rose from his seat, removed his suit jacket, and placed it around my shoulders. The warmth of it felt like the first safe thing I'd touched in years. "Keep your head down," he said. "From this moment on, you're under my protection." His words should have scared me. Instead, they steadied me. We walked through the kitchen. Every employee pretended not to see. No one dared speak while Christian Hayes escorted a waitress out the back like she was something fragile he meant to keep alive. Rain poured down as a black Bentley slid up beside us. Its engine purred like a warning. "Once you get in," Christian said, his breath warm near my ear, "there's no going back to your old life, do you understand?" His hand hovered near my back without touching me, respectful in a way my husband had never been. I looked up at him and, for the first time, I didn't see a monster. I saw a man whose eyes held something human beneath the steel. "I understand," I whispered. "My old life ended the moment I asked for your help." I stepped into the warm leather interior. The door shut with a soft thud, sealing my decision. Christian slid in beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat from his body. "Take us home," he ordered the driver. As the city lights blurred past, I pressed my forehead to the window and wondered if I had just traded one prison for another. I didn't know where he was taking me. I didn't know what he wanted. But I knew one thing. For the first time in years, my husband couldn't touch me. And that alone made me breathe again. The ride to Christian's mansion felt unreal, like I had stepped out of my old life and into a world I didn't understand. Rain streaked down the windows as Seattle blurred into nothing but shadows and lights. My ribs ached with every breath, my cheek burned, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. But for the first time in years, the shaking wasn't from fear of what waited at home. It was from not knowing what would happen next. Christian didn't speak during the drive. He just watched me with an expression I couldn't read. Not pity, not anger, something sharper, something calculating, yet strangely gentle under the surface. I couldn't hold his gaze for long. It felt like he saw everything I tried so hard to hide. When the gates opened and the car rolled into his estate, my breath caught. The mansion rose above the trees, its lights glowing in the rain like a fortress. The place looked like it belonged to someone who controlled half the city. Someone untouchable. Was I safe here, or had I stepped into something worse? The Bentley came to a stop under a covered entrance. A woman in a fitted black suit waited with a tablet in hand. Her posture was military sharp, her eyes scanning me with surprising care. "This is Diane," Christian said as he stepped out and opened my door himself. "She's head of security." "Welcome," she said softly, offering me her hand. "You're safe here." Safe. The word hit something deep inside me. The moment we stepped into the mansion, I felt small. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, hallways so wide they echoed when you breathed. I clutched Christian's jacket tighter around my shoulders, suddenly aware of my worn-out waitress uniform and bruised face reflected in polished surfaces. A doctor waited in a warm-lit study filled with books and old leather. He didn't look at me with judgment, the way so many ER doctors had after my husband's lies. He looked at me like a person. Christian stood at the door and spoke low. "He'll document your injuries. This is standard. If your husband tries anything, this becomes leverage." Quote. My body stiffened. I wasn't used to men caring what happened to me. "You can trust him," Christian added before stepping out. "No one will hurt you here." The doctor treated my ribs, my cheek, the burns on my arm I pretended were accidents. He asked gentle questions. He didn't push. He didn't shame me. When he finished, Diane returned and led me through the maze of hallways. The room she opened for me felt unreal, a bed bigger than my whole bedroom at home. A closet filled with clothes in my size. A bathroom with warm light and clean towels. I touched the bedspread with trembling fingers, sinking into the softness. "The security code updates every morning," Diane explained. "No one enters unless you allow it, not even Mr. Hayes." I blinked at her. "Not even him?" She handed me a small device shaped like a pendant. "This is a panic button. Press it and I'll reach you in 30 seconds. Her voice softened. "You're safe now." When the door closed and I was alone, the silence hit me hard. I sat on the edge of the bed, my mind spinning. My life had changed in less than an hour. I should have been terrified. I should have been crying. But instead I felt something else. Relief. And confusion. And a strange, growing warmth whenever I thought of Christian placing his jacket around me. I didn't know what he wanted. I didn't know why he helped me so quickly. But lying there in the huge bed, wrapped in a blanket that smelled faintly like lavender, I knew one thing. My husband couldn't touch me. Not here. Not ever again if Christian kept his word. The next morning, sunlight streamed into the room, waking me with a strange sense of calm. Then, the memories returned, hitting me like a wave. I sat up, wincing as my ribs pulled. Diane knocked softly before entering with a tray of breakfast. "Mr. Hayes requests your presence in his office at 10, she said. "He has information for you, important information." Her tone made me nervous. After she left, I showered carefully, avoiding my bruises, and chose simple clothes from the closet. Everything fit perfectly. That detail sent a chill through me. Had he watched me long enough to know my size? Or was it coincidence? When I entered Christian's office, he was standing by a large desk, sleeves rolled to his forearms, looking at his laptop. He gestured to the chair next to his. "Your husband filed a missing persons report this morning." My stomach dropped. He turned the laptop toward me. I saw my own picture. A happy version of me from years ago. Under it, lies. Claims that I was unstable. Delusional. A danger to myself. "He says you went off your medication," Christian said. "I've never been prescribed anything," I whispered. "That's the problem," he said, jaw tightening. "Judge Porter signed committal papers based on your husband's story." My throat closed. Hospitalization. Forced treatment. My husband was setting the stage to lock me away forever. "That's why you came to me," Christian said quietly. "You knew no one else could protect you." I looked up at him and saw something in his expression I hadn't seen before. Anger. Not at me. For me. He clicked open another set of images. My husband. Meeting with men I didn't know. Exchanging envelopes. "Your husband has been working with the Kovalev family," Christian explained. "He's been stealing from them, and now they're trying to figure out who he told." I stared at the screen, feeling my heartbeat pound in my ears. "So I'm not a victim in their eyes," I whispered. "I'm a liability." "You are both a witness and a threat," Christian said, "and they won't stop looking." I swallowed hard as the truth settled over me like ice. My husband wasn't the only one who wanted me gone, and the only man standing between me and all of them was the Mafia boss sitting inches away from me. "Why did you help me?" I asked, my voice trembling. Christian didn't answer right away. He just looked at me with an expression I didn't understand. "Because," he said finally, "someone should have helped you a long time ago." For the first time in years, I felt seen. And for the first time ever, I realized safety could look like danger if it came in the right form. The days that followed moved differently than anything I had ever known. For the first time in years, I did not wake up in fear. I did not flinch at footsteps outside my door. I did not brace myself for shouting or fists or the cold silence that always came before the worst nights. Instead, each morning began with a knock from Diane, a tray of food, and a schedule. And each morning I found Christian waiting for me in his office, calm and composed, already working through messages I could only guess the danger of. But even with all the control he held, he always paused when I walked in. Just for a moment, like he needed to see that I was still there. The first time I caught that look, it made something warm settle in my chest. Our work started simple. Christian showed me files, photographs, transactions, connecting my husband to the Kovalev crime network. He explained everything clearly, as if he wanted me to understand, not because he needed my help, but because he respected me enough to include me. But the moment that changed everything came when he showed me surveillance photos of my husband meeting with strangers in dark parking lots. "He's been working with them for over a year," Christian said. "Stealing from them, laundering money through the restaurant, using your name on accounts you never knew existed." I felt sick. "So I'm not just running from him," I whispered. "I'm running from the people he betrayed." Christian stood from his desk and walked closer, not touching me. Just close enough that I felt shielded by his presence. "You're running with me," he corrected gently. There's a difference. Something about the way he said it made my breath catch. That afternoon, Diane began training me in basic self-defense. I never imagined I would learn how to break free from grips, how to shift my weight, how to move my hands so someone twice my size couldn't control me. "Your advantage is that he underestimates you," Diane told me. "He expects fear, not skill." Every time I fell, I got up. Every time my ribs ached, I kept going. Every time Diane corrected my form, Christian watched from the doorway. Quiet. Observing. A flicker of approval in his eyes every time I succeeded. The bruise on my cheek slowly faded. The burn on my arm healed. But the changes happening inside me felt even bigger. I was not the same woman who walked into Stellato begging for help. One night, after another lesson with Diane, I wandered the hallways, unable to sleep. My nightmares still came, but they no longer left me shaking. They left me restless. Searching for something I couldn't name, I found Christian in the library, working by the fire. When he saw me, he closed his laptop without question. "Another bad dream?" he asked softly. I nodded, though I wasn't sure it was only that. He gestured toward the chessboard on the table. "Sit with me. I'll teach you." I sat across from him, watching his hands as he moved the pieces. Hands that had built an empire, hands known for violence, yet tonight they were gentle. "The queen is the most powerful piece on the board," he explained. "People forget that. They focus on protecting the king, but the queen, she changes the game." I looked at the piece between us, then at him. "Was your mother strong like that?" I asked. His expression softened in a way I had never seen. The hardness slipped for a moment, revealing something raw underneath. "My mother didn't escape her husband," he said quietly. "If someone had helped her, she would still be alive." Something inside me broke for him. "I'm sorry," I whispered, reaching across the board. This time, I was the one who touched him first. My fingertips brushed his hand. He turned his palm up, closing his fingers gently around mine. No pressure. No force. Only permission. "The past shapes us," he said, "but it doesn't define us. Remember that." I swallowed hard, feeling something rise inside me, courage or desire, or maybe both. Before I could say anything else, his phone rang. The softness in his eyes vanished. He listened, his jaw tensed. "They found your husband's warehouse," he said after ending the call. "We make our move tomorrow." My heartbeat quickened. "What do you need from me?" I asked. Christian looked at me like he was seeing not the broken woman who came to him, but the woman I was becoming. "Your knowledge," he said. "Your memory. Your courage. Everything he tried to beat out of you." Quote. I stood, facing him. I felt steady. I felt strong. I'm ready. That night I barely slept, not because of fear, but because of anticipation. A strange, powerful calm settled inside me. Tomorrow I would stop running. Tomorrow I would face the men who wanted me dead. Tomorrow I would trust the man who had already saved my life. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was choosing. The warehouse raid changed everything. Rain hammered against the windows of the SUV as we sat 2 blocks from the building, where my husband had stored ledgers, cash, and evidence that could bring down half the Kovalev network. I wore black clothes, tight enough to move easily, with a communication device hidden in my ear. My heart raced, but I wasn't the same terrified woman who had run into Christian's restaurant begging for help. I had trained for this. I had prepared for this. And I wasn't alone. "Stay behind me," Christian said, checking his weapon with the calm confidence of a man who had survived far worse. "If anything feels wrong, we leave. Understood?" "Yes." My voice didn't shake this time. When we moved, everything happened fast. Diane disabled the exterior alarms. Christian knocked out a guard before he even knew we were there. We slipped through shadows, our footsteps silent on the concrete floors. The warehouse was massive, filled with metal containers and dark corridors that made my stomach twist with familiar dread. But tonight, I wasn't powerless. "This way," I whispered, guiding Christian toward the office my husband used. My hand hovered over my ribs as we walked. The last time I had been in this building, Peter had dragged me here during a drunken rage. He made me sit on the cold floor for hours while he counted money. Now I was the one leading. We reached the office. Everything was exactly how I remembered. The photos of me smiling on the desk made my stomach twist. Christian moved them aside without comment. "The safe is behind that painting," I said quietly. He nodded. "The code?" "My birthday. Month and day. He used it for everything. He thought it made him romantic." I opened the safe, my hands steady. Inside were ledgers, flash drives, stacks of cash marked with the Kovalev emblem. "More than we expected," Christian murmured. "This is enough to bury them." But before we could move, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Too heavy, too familiar. My chest tightened. "He's here. My husband shouldn't be here tonight." The door flew open. Peter stood in the doorway, shock spreading across his face when he saw me next to Christian. Rage followed immediately. "Well," he sneered, "if it isn't my runaway wife." I stepped from behind Christian before he could stop me. "Hello, Peter," I said, amazed at my own steady voice. "Surprised to see me standing?" He reached for the weapon he kept at his back, but Christian was faster. In seconds, he had Peter's gun kicked across the room and his own weapon raised. "You don't touch her," Christian said, his voice low and deadly. But before the standoff could end, the alarms blared. Diane's urgent voice came through our earpieces. "Multiple vehicles incoming. Kovalev men. Move now." Gunfire erupted behind us. Peter panicked. Instead of running to his allies, he followed us, terrified of the very men he'd been stealing from. The escape was chaos. Diane pulled up to the loading dock, doors already open. Christian pushed me inside first, before grabbing Peter by the collar and shoving him in after me. "Drive!" he yelled. Bullets smashed through the rear window as we sped off, weaving through the industrial district until we finally lost them. When we reached Christian's compound, guards swarmed the vehicle. Christian dragged Peter out and handed him off to his men. "Guest house," he ordered. "Full surveillance, no communication." Then he turned to me. "You okay?" he asked softly, something in his voice. It wasn't the Mafia boss talking, it was the man. "I'm okay," I whispered, and for the first time it felt true. Inside the mansion, after the adrenaline faded, I finally asked the question that had been clawing at me. "You could have let them kill him, why didn't you?" Christian brushed a streak of dirt from my cheek, his touch gentle in a way that made my chest ache. "Because you spent years with that man," he said. "I wanted his fate to be your choice, not theirs." The tenderness in his eyes nearly brought me to my knees. The following days blurred into strategy meetings, court filings, FBI coordination, and non-stop planning. The Kovalev network started collapsing. Officials were arrested. Operations shut down. The city buzzed with rumors, and Christian's name circulated through every corner of Seattle. But through all of it, he kept me close. Not as a prisoner, not as a tool, as a partner. One morning, 3 days after the raid, Diane entered Christian's office with breaking news. "Judge Porter is holding a press conference. The police have orders to locate Amara Reed." "My old name, my old life," Christian cursed under his breath. "They're turning this into a citywide manhunt." I realized my husband's lies had grown roots deeper than I expected. "I need to talk to Peter," I told Christian. "Alone." Christian didn't like it, but he trusted me enough to let me go. In the guest house, Peter looked smaller without his expensive suits. Desperate. Afraid. "The Kovalevs are planning something big," he admitted. "Tomorrow night, during the charity gala, they're moving everything, girls, weapons, drugs, through the harbor." Cold dread washed over me. "And the officials?" I asked. "At the gala," he whispered. "All of them." I didn't hesitate. I ran. The mansion exploded into coordinated movement. Phones rang. Orders were given. Weapons checked. This wasn't just survival now. This was war. The gala shimmered with gold lights reflecting off the harbor. I wore a black gown with diamond earrings that were actually communication devices. Christian's hand rested lightly at my back as we entered, both of us pretending to be nothing more than donors. But beneath the elegance, the building thrummed with danger. "They're nervous," I whispered. "Their shipment is late." "That's because Harbor Patrol intercepted it," Christian murmured. "We hit them where it hurts." But suddenly the room shifted. Men checked their watches. Security tightened. Then, a gunshot. Screams filled the hall as chandeliers shattered. Guests dove for the floor. Christian grabbed me and shielded my body with his. "We need to reach Andre before he escapes," I said. And we ran. Through the chaos. Through the kitchens. Down a service corridor. Until we found the Kovalev patriarch. "It's over," Christian told him. "Weapons steady." Sirens wailed outside. Law enforcement stormed the building. Andre glared at us both, realization dawning. "You," he spat at me, "the waitress." For the first time, I didn't flinch. "You underestimated the wrong woman." The city shook with arrests, investigations, confessions, and charges. News headlines filled every screen. And when dawn broke, Christian and I stood on his balcony overlooking Seattle. "What happens to Peter?" I asked quietly. "Witness protection," Christian said. "A life with no power, no control, no you." I nodded. "I want something different," I told him. "A real life. A life I choose." Christian turned to face me fully. "And what do you choose?" I stepped closer, my heart steady. "You." The kiss we shared felt like stepping into the life I had always deserved. Warm, strong, certain. When we pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. "This world won't be easy," he warned. "I don't want easy," I whispered. "I want real." His arms wrapped around my waist. I felt safe. I felt powerful. I felt free. In the end, the most shocking part wasn't that I begged a mafia boss to save my life. It was that he ended up giving me a new one. And I chose him right back.